Hello all, it's the 15th of August 2017, you're here with Dan in Essex, UK. So the weather appears to have bounced back around here of late, up to about 26 degrees C today, which is brilliant. Wasn't far behind that yesterday. And I've come out into the poly tunnel here, and I've noticed that my bitter melons really have advanced. So I thought I'd do a little video on how they're getting on and talk a little bit about them. So this is probably the best looking one I've got growing here at the moment. And bitter melons are said to have beneficial properties for those with type 2 diabetes. So if you indeed do have this, you may want to look into it. But don't take my word for it, as I always say, do your own research. But they can be grown in the UK and similar climates with a little bit of thought, and they're normally like a Southeast Asian crop grown in warmer parts of the US as well, places like India, Philippines, Cambodia, you guys get it, generally warmer, places with a much warmer climate. But as I stated before, success can be achieved here if you create the correct microclimate for them. Now, I have tried to grow them outside before and it didn't work, but maybe it would work if they were against a south-facing wall, etc, etc. But that might be something I'll try next year. But the last few years I've grown them with success in a polytunnel, so I found what works, so it makes sense in a way to carry on with that. So let's have a look. Now, the way that I've found is the best way to grow them is to grow them like up a trellis, or long as they can climb. They like to climb, and you can see here, look, got other ones here, one here, got one down there, and they really are starting to appear all over the place. Now, the way that I grew them this year, simply because of time constraints, other things going on, etc, etc, is I grew them in these large pots, and you can see they're starting to grow up like this, and they're growing in amongst some water. There you go, look, another one there, look. So these will make some good size, and they're growing in amongst my sugar baby watermelons. But if anyone watching this doesn't know about my watermelon project here, this will be a subject for another video. I'm not going to go too much into that today, but we've got another bitter melon here. Now, what I found last year was we had a very warm November, and these were growing and maturing well into November last year, and I was very happy with that indeed. And the plants can get rather large. So, for example, let's have a look. Over there, look, they're starting to trail all the way over here. So the best way, in my experience, I've found is to grow them up. You could grow them like you do cucumbers, you know, up string, up bean poles. But if you were limited for time, as I was earlier in the year, this is how I grew them. I grew them up, you can see what I've got here. Just some mesh like this. And they've all intertwined, but I'm still getting decent crops, and I'm expecting these to continue. Now you see these flowers over here, they're from the bitter melons, and what I've found with these, at least the variety that I've managed to get hold of, was they're self-fertile, because I've had no bees in here because the door is always shut, and they're still setting good amounts of veg or fruit, whatever you want to call it. They've not been like the watermelons where I've had to actually physically, with a paintbrush or rubbing them together, the male and female flowers in order to set fruit. So certainly in some ways lower maintenance than growing watermelon. Now, another good thing about them is they have these beautiful yellow flowers, which I really like, almost like cucumber flowers really, but they're certainly a curiosity, and they crop well. So check out some of my videos from last summer, and you'll see just how many I indeed got, and a lot bigger than this as well. I'm going to leave this one on here, and as they mature, as I get more, you guys will see just what is possible. And a few other bits and bobs going down here as well. Got some peppers coming on, you see that one there. So I'm just looking around here regularly as to what's happening, and certainly an interesting thing to grow by any means. So looking at the polytunnel, you can see, so they really do benefit from the extra microclimate, because I grew some in the, just as an experiment. I was 90% sure it was going to fail. I grew some in the ground at the allotment, and they didn't do well. But in a polytunnel, they certainly do. And if you want a touch of the exotic, and they've also got this beautiful earthy taste as well, and I quite like the vines. They add like this sort of tropical touch to a polytunnel, which I have been to Southeast Asia myself, and I do indeed love it there. And you know, the climate, oh dear, the potential for growing things year round. I mean, I remember that you know, being out there, you know, when it was winter here, and I remember seeing people growing tomatoes, and you know, people growing tomatoes year round, growing sweet corn year round, growing squash year round, things like. And to me, it's just like, oh, you know, I do miss that. And of course, there are things that you can't grow there that you can grow here. So like anything, it's, you know, swings and roundabouts and variety, and you've got to know what you're doing. But to me, growing tropical stuff in the UK is a nice challenge. So down here, look, we have some cucumber flowers, and you really can see the similarity between cucumber flowers and the flowers on the bitter melons. And actually, yeah, quite a big one here, I think. Yeah, I might have to pick that one tonight. So all in all, good, and I'm expecting these, as I stated earlier, to continue to produce fruit up until the frosts. I mean, a frost will, I mean, they survived a light frost, I remember, in the polytunnel last year, but once heavy frosts come, it'll just kill them complete, and that'll be the end of that, and then have to wait till the following year. They won't tolerate a hard frost in any way, shape or form, and they only tolerated the light one last year because they were in a semi-protected in a polytunnel. So you've got to make sure things very tender like this are protected and grow them at the right time of year. Don't stick them in the ground and you know, hope for the best. What's going on here? And you can see, look, just the extent of the vine here. It's growing all the way up my peach tree. Again, this is a thing that I don't mind, because end of the year it'll die in the frost, as I stated, and I'll cut it all back. I like a little bit of wildness. And what they do, look, is they put up these sort of tendrils to grip, to climb up things. So bitter melons, curiosity if nothing else, to grow in a non-ideal climate, and in their own climate these can get very big indeed. I remember seeing them at an Asian market, and they really do grow well. So give it a go, bitter melons. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care, speak soon.